What's up, soldiers? It's another day in the life of a recovering addict. You know, we come a long way. It's crazy how much we've changed, how much difference just getting sober makes in your life, you know? I've given up so much of my old lifestyle. Quit smoking weed. I never thought I'd do that. Quit using pills. Quit using heroin. And I tell you what, I don't regret nothing. You know, I don't even regret the journey that I come along. I never thought I'd do hard drugs back when I was running my own business, doing construction, picking up jobs, paychecks, hiring people, had my best friends working for me, had my family working for me. Basically, if you knew me, we were any kind of associates, you probably worked for me at some point. And you know, I felt like I reached the top, I think, you know? And maybe this was just God's way of resetting my life, resetting my mindset, so I could see I had much more to achieve, you know? I wasn't helping myself. I wasn't helping the people around me as much as I could, I don't think. I think God's seen a little bit more potential in my life. So, you know, it is what it is. I have to surrender the fact that I became addicted. Like all those people I never thought I'd be like my whole life. It's crazy. But now looking back, I see how much I've learned about myself, you know? I see how much I've gained. It's all about surrender. You know, surrender is all about acceptance. Letting go of them expectations in your life. Expecting people to see things the way you see them. Expecting things to go your way. You know, a friend of mine once said, acceptance grows you a beautiful garden. And I thought I knew what he was talking about. But I realized every day that goes by, I learn what he was talking about just a little bit more. You know? Getting sober, living a sober lifestyle, you realize everything's brand new. Every day, it's like you're starting all over. And you just gotta start learning that you gotta relearn everything in your life, you know? And one of the biggest things that I've noticed is you gotta be ready for haters. You know, the people that you used to hang out with, because chances are, if you're an addict, you got a bunch of addict friends that hang around you. Either that, or if you're going through treatment, you're gonna see that people around you don't want you to succeed, because it highlights everything they can't do if they can't succeed. If they can't stick to the program and stay sober because they just want to tell themselves, lie to themselves, or stay in denial that, you know what, I can get high just one more time. I can have just one more drink and it don't mean nothing. It's not going to hurt me, you know? That's a lie. Every time you give in after you've decided to recover, it resets everything. It really does. You know, you gotta commit to a routine, and you gotta have that discipline that it takes to stick to the routine no matter what. You know, you're gonna have good days, you're gonna have bad days. So you just gotta discipline yourself. You know, like Tyson said, I don't want to mess this up, but I think he said, discipline is doing what you hate to do like you love it. And, you know, sometimes it's not always those things that you get credit for. Sometimes it's doing the things that you know you got to do when nobody's watching. That you know somebody's always watching. Somebody's always paying attention. Somebody's always looking to see if your heart's really in it. You know who that is? That's your higher power. And I encourage you to get in touch with him right now. And stay committed. Stay loyal. Learn personal values that never meant nothing to you before, because anything was expendable if it came down to the cost of getting your next hit. Your next hit no longer exists. Your next hit is waking up tomorrow sober and knowing that you are strong enough to make it through the day. Staying locked in, no matter what the cost. And usually, the cost means having your money still in your pocket the next day. You know? It's weird how backwards things are once you start getting sober. And sometimes it doesn't mean things are going to be easier just because you're sober and you're dealing with things as a real person. Sometimes it means facing your problems and actually dealing with them. But usually when you face your problems and you make progress, your life gets better. Problems start to disappear as you deal with them. You know, and that's the difference between, you know, living a sober lifestyle and living that lifestyle where you always take the easy way out. You know, sometimes living a sober lifestyle sucks, but it's worth it. And it's to each of us to learn what that means for everybody individually. It's all about individuation, you know. I would find somebody that helps you see yourself for who you really are. You know, build you a hedge of protection. And that means accountability. That's what that means. You know, those people that hold you accountable. That person that's gonna tell you, you know what? I know you just went out and bought a bottle. Bring it over to me and I'll get rid of it for you. We ain't got to tell nobody about it. We're just gonna do the right thing today. We're gonna put it behind us. We're gonna move on. You know, that person that's gonna hold you accountable and say, you know what? I know you're on the path to making a mistake right now, but I'm not gonna let that happen. I'm not gonna let you continue to landslide on yourself because you're having a hard time right now. You know, I find myself making that mistake constantly. You know, I get depressed because I'm still going through it. You know, your brain doesn't know how to deal with boredom. Your brain's chemically engineered to take the easy way out. And that's where the battle comes in. the battle between your heart and your mind, because your heart knows what's right, but your brain wants to take the easy way. Your brain wants to say, no, we could take a break just this one time. It's cool. But you know what? You just got to fight that urge. You got to fight those triggers. Your brain's constantly going to send triggers at you to make you think that there's an easier way. There's an easy way and there's the right way. Sometimes you just got to ask yourself which path you're on. You know? It's the road to success, man. It ain't easy. It ain't easy. It's lonely. Sometimes it's bitter. Sometimes it sucks. But it's the path of integrity. It's the path that adds value to your life instead of sacrificing a little bit more quality of your life. Bit by bit, piece by piece. Instead of sacrifice, we surrender. We take a second and remember that little prayer. Y'all ready? God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. Lock it in.